Yo, we gotta talk about every single fight that happened on this week's Dana White Contender Series because holy shit, there are potential superstars in the making. All right. I'm gonna talk about every single fight that happened on season 9, episode 4 on the Dana White Contender Series. This is a very brief recap, and if you guys want to go find out the fights for yourselves, you're more than welcome to do so. I'm just gonna give you guys a brief rundown on what I think about all the fights and how far I think each of these winners who got their contracts can potentially go in the UFC. So, without wasting any more time, let's jump right into the video. All right, first fight, we got to start off with Tommy McMillan versus David Milgon. I don't know how to pronounce this, but anyways, Tommy McMillan won this fight 29-28 by the majority decision. I'll say this, I don't think he's as good as the UFC wants him to be because I don't think he has a submission game that's like elite level, and his striking looked very robotic. But I think the dude has a lot of grit, and in a division like featherweight where there aren't that many knockout artists, like you have your point strikers, you have your wrestlers, you have your submission artists, but you don't really see that many like knockout artists in the featherweight division. If anything, I'd say that Tommy McMillan, although he looks slow, although his chin is very hittable, although he doesn't have the best defense, I think Tommy McMillan will do very well in this division because if you don't get him out in the first round with either a submission or like a knockout where you just get him out there cold, he will build as the fight progresses and he will start to pressure you, right? The first round is David Miogan guy or whatever. He was latching up a mounted guillotine, and he almost had Tommy McMillan in dangerous positions, but somehow McMillan was able to survive. And after the first round, McMillan started to whoop David Milgon's ass. All right, I was super impressed by the toughness of Tommy McMillan, but I just don't think he's going to necessarily be like a championship or like a top 5 caliber of sorts in the featherweight division because his striking does leave a lot to be desired when it comes to distance management. However, he is training with Sean O'Malley, so he's probably going to get some preferential treatment from the UFC. And also, Tommy McMillan can improve because, again, he is training with arguably one of the slickest strikers in the UFC right now in Sean O'Malley. So there is time for Tommy McMillan to improve. There is time for Tommy McMillan to build himself and his skill set, but that time needs to be now. He's 27 years old, I believe. So I think you gotta start right away, right? Maybe give him like 2 tune-up fights at best, and then right after that, you gotta start chucking him some tests because I don't think Tommy McMillan is really going to have that much time to improve his skill sets. But overall, I was pretty impressed with the grit and determination that Tommy McMillan showed because in the 3rd round, he almost put away David Miogan, alright? And hats off to David Miogan to, show up, and even though he was gassed out in the 3rd round, he still tried to fight back, right? So I think David Miogan, he will get a UFC contract in the future, but unfortunately, he's not going to right now because Tommy McMillan won, and rightfully so. He gets a contract because although he didn't get the finish, all right, he tried. You can actually see him like going for finishes over and over again, and he is a pretty exciting fighter overall. All right, now up next we got Eduardo Henrique versus Antoine Ho. The one thing I was confused about was the referee, Gary Hopeland. He was very off this fight night. All right, we're gonna talk about the Olasechuk fight in a second, but Enrique was cheating throughout the entire fight. Illegal knee, uh, head clash. Like, this guy didn't call anything out that Enrique did. Like, he even tried to put the fingers in the glove. Like, Enrique was cheating a lot, but for some reason, Gary Copeland did not call any of it. He didn't even bother to correct the judges once he realized that he made a mistake. So it's very weird. as to how Henrique didn't get any sort of penalization. Like, do I think that really mattered ultimately? Not necessarily because Henrique won all 3 rounds, but I would have liked to at least seen some sort of point deduction because Henrique was again committing a lot of fouls throughout this fight. So it was also very weird by the fact that Henrique, he didn't really try to go for a finish in the 3rd round. I think he just kind of coasted because he was like, "Oh, I'm up 2 rounds and I'm in his guard right now. I don't really have to do anything." Like, no, that's not how the Dana White Contender Series works. Like in a typical UFC fight, sure, that actually does work. It's called strategy. But the Dana White Contender Series is all about how exciting of a fight you put on, and that 3rd round does leave a lot to be desired when it comes to entertainment. So I understand why Dana White didn't give him a UFC contract, and rightfully so, because not only was he cheating throughout the entire fight, he didn't really try his best to try and get a finish. Right now, up next, we got Mendel Nalo versus Samuel Silva. Yeah, this was a crazy fight. Like Nalo's actually really good. Like he was doing a very good job of just chewing up Silva's leg with the calf kick. And he was just timing every time Samuel Silva was trying to stand switch and try to kick his leg back so he doesn't get calf kicked over and over again. And eventually Nalo was able to time a right hand and just crumple Silva from there. Right? It was a very impressive knockout. And the fact that Nalo is 36 years old, in my eyes, makes it more impressive because, I don't know, he doesn't move like a 36-year-old, I'll tell you that much. And I think it's a common trend with the TriStar fighters, all right? People are like fighters who come from that gym, like even though they're like what in their mid to late 30s, like they are very athletic and they're looking pretty decent right now. So I'm gonna say that Mendel Nalo, although he's like what 36 years old and it's kind of now or never for him. I do think he can make some noise in the lightweight division because he's not just like a aggressive brawler who's just going out there trying to cleave your head off in the 1st round. He's a very educated striker, and I think he's more educated than a lot of the strikers in the unranked sections of the lightweight division. All right, now moving on, we got Cesare Olasechuk versus Theo Hag. There isn't that much to break down about this fight. Cesare Olasechuk just kind of dropped him in the 1st round with a 1-2. And then as Theo Hag was trying to shoot for a double leg, Cesare was able to stuff the takedown and just land nonstop ground and pound shots. All right, with the hammer fist. For some reason, Gary Copeland, I don't know what he was drinking and smoking, but he tried to call the fight as like a DQ, but you could see a lot of the shots were clearly legal. So I was actually confused as to what Gary Copeland was doing in that situation. And keep in mind, this was literally after he messed up during the Eduardo Henrique fight, where he didn't call any of the fouls that happened throughout the fight by Henrique's side. And Olasechuk, did it necessarily matter for the stoppage? No, because he threw 21 unanswered hammerfish shots to the side of the head. But the fact that Gary Copeland messed that up, all right, I think Gary Copeland shouldn't be a referee anymore. No offense, Gary Copeland. I got nothing against you. It's just the fact that you can't be messing up like that consistently in one night, all right? One or two fights is okay. If it's the main event, we'll be pissed, but you're not going to lose your job or anything like that. It's the fact that he consistently messed up all of the fights that he was repping. So I'm very concerned whenever Gary Copeland's going to fight because I don't know what I'm going to get from him. But as for Cesario Olasechuk, I think he's pretty solid. I don't believe the guy he fought in Theo Hag is like the best level of competition. But again, Olasechuk's like what 16-3. He's pretty young. I think he's the younger brother of Mikhail Olasechuk. So he has some time to develop. And is he fighting in the same division? Oh yes, he is fighting in the same division as Mikhail. All right, so Cesare Olasechuk, the middleweight division isn't that stacked. And I can honestly see him like vying for like a ranked position after like 3 wins or something like that. So if he's down to fight soon, I can see the UFC gonna trying to push him because like a lot of people know who Olasechik is, and as Mikhail Olasechik's brother, I think some of that like fame and notoriety is gonna pass to Jazari. So hopefully the UFC put him on very soon. And last but not least, we got to the main event. Jean Paul Lebosnoyani. Yeah, I'm gonna have a hard time pronouncing that name, but I'm gonna try my best to do so because Jean Paul is a superstar in the making. All right, he knocked out Jack Congdon in one of the nastiest KOs I have watched in 2025. All right. He timed the jab into a switch kick. And then, as Jack Congdon was like dazed, he timed him with the overhand right and then just slumped him out cold. All right. It was a super nasty knockout. I thought it lasted shorter than a minute and 8 seconds, but the fact still remains. It was a super impressive knockout. And keep in mind, this guy's a BJJ master, all right? This guy's entire hype comes from the fact that he's trained BJJ for a long time. His family lineage is like successful BJJ practitioners. And here's Lepo Nasny just knocking dudes out in the welterweight division. It was super impressive. The one thing I'm concerned about is his size because he does look a little bit undersized for the welterweight division. And I would like to see him move down to the lightweight division if possible. But I don't know. He is a superstar in the making. Like a lot of people, I believe, are going to be on the hype train of Jean Paul. So hopefully, this guy moves down to lightweight. I think that's the ideal weight class for him. But if he doesn't and he goes and stays at welterweight, I don't think he's necessarily going to do bad until he fights someone who's like decently big and decently skilled. But he's not gonna fight someone like that until he gets to like near the rankings of the welterweight division. So for now, I'm hoping we get highlight reel KOs after highlight reel submissions from Jean Paul Levonosniani. All right, that's gonna be it for today's video. If you guys want to see more videos like this, please make sure to like and subscribe so I can get this channel monetized and so that I don't have to work at my dead end job. But other than that, though, again, leave a comment down below what you guys thought about this week's Dana White Contender Series, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.